Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Sandeep Walia, Head of the Department, University Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Chandigarh University. Today we are going to discuss about the module Growth and Development of Indian Architecture Through the Ages under the paper Tourism Products of India. Dear students, after completing this module, you will be able to trace the evolution of Indian architecture through the ages. You will also be able to know about the timeline of Indian architecture. The students will also be able to understand and identify different styles of architecture and their characteristics. The students will also be able to identify major dynasties related to architecture. Dear students, the present module describes the development of Indian architecture with the passage of time. India has been ruled by different legacies and more prominently by the Britishers. Hence, the architecture of India represents a blend of different architectural styles, which can be studied under various eras and civilization, that is, Indus Valley Civilization, early historic period, Delhi Sultanate, Colonial period and modern period. So after going through this module, the students will be able to know about the development of architectural styles in India through the ages. Let us discuss about Indus Valley Civilization first. The Indus Valley Civilization is said to be one of the oldest civilizations in the history of entire Indian subcontinent. It was a Bronze Age civilization in the northern northwest region of the Indian subcontinent, which is now the modern-day Pakistan and the northeast India. It is said to be one of the largest civilizations in the world as its geographical area was spread over an area of 126,000 square kilometers. Indus Valley River Basin flourished around this region. Mohenjo-daro, Harappa and Kalibangan were the major cities associated with these civilizations. Let us discuss about features of buildings constructed in the Indus Valley Civilization. The first one is the Great Bath. The Great Bath is the most impressive structure excavated at Mohenjo-daro so far. This bath is a pool which is 12 meters long, 7 meters wide and 2.5 meters deep, which is constructed with kindling burnt bricks. The pool is in the center of the large open quadrangle with rooms and galleries on all sides. A flight of steps at either end connects it to the rooms. The next one is the granary, made of burnt brick, built close to the river Ravi to make transportation easy. It comprises of 2 blocks. Each block has 6 storage rooms, 50 meters long and 6 meters wide. The 2 blocks are separated by a passage. There are air ducts under the wooden floor. It measures 55 meters by 43 meters in size. The next one is the Assembly Hall. It covers an area of 750 square meters. There are 4 rows of fine brick piers and pillars at the corners. The next one is the streets. The Harappans were great city planners. The city streets were based on a grid system, which were oriented east to west. There was a well-organized drain system in each street. Then there were the community wells. The wells in most of houses are quite common and comprise one of the most recognizable features of Harappan urbanism. The houses, made up of sun-dried or kiln-fired mud brick. These bricks were so strong they have stood up to thousands of years of wear. There were an indoor and outdoor kitchen in each house for both summer season or warm conditions and other for winter season or rainy or chilled conditions. Let us now discuss about early historic period architecture. The foundation stone of the religious landmarks in the sacred land of India was laid down by the early historic architecture. The timeline of the rulers under whose influence the architecture took place is as follows. 400 BCE to 300 BCE, the Nandas. 300 BCE to 200 BCE, the Mauryas were there. Then 100 BCE to 100 CE, Satavahans were there. Then 0 to 200 CE, Kushnas were there. 250 CE to 500 CE, Guptas ruled there. Then 550 CE to 650 CE, Harshas were there. Then 700 CE to 1000 CE, Palas and Guryas or Rashtrakutas were there. Then 900 CE to 1100 CE, Cholas were there. An important phase of Indian architecture began with the Mauryan period. The Mauryan palace was a large building carved out of wood. Mauryan art and architecture depicted the influence of Persians and Greeks during the reign of Ashoka. Many monolithic stone pillars were erected on which teachings of Dharma were inscribed. The highly polished pillars were animal figures adorning to the top and unique and remarkable. The lion capital of the Sarnath pillar has been accepted as the emblem of the Indian Republic. Each pillar weighs about 50 tons and is about 50 feet in height. The stupas of Sanchi and Sarnath are symbols of the achievement of the Mauryan architectures. The gateways of the Sanchi stupa, with a beautiful sculpture depicting scenes from Jatka stories, are specimens of the skill and aesthetic sense of the artisans. Blending of Greek and Indian art led to the development of Gandhara art, which developed later. Other schools of art and architecture were the indigenous Mathura school and Amravati school. Deogarh, which is in Jhansi district, which had a central shrine or Garbhagriha where the image of the deity was placed, and temple at Bhitri Gaon in the Kanpur district are two perfect examples. Let us now discuss about various forms of the temples. The first one is the cave architecture. Between 2nd century BC and 10th century AD, more than 1000 caves were excavated. Ajanta and Ellora caves of Maharashtra and Udayagiri cave of Orissa are some of the famous caves. These caves hold Buddhist biharas, chaityas as well as mandapas and pillar temple of Hindu gods and goddesses. The next category is the rock cut temples. In ancient times, temples were hewn out of huge rocks. Western Deccan had the earliest rock cut temples in the early years of the Christian era. A remarkable example of rock cut architecture is the chaityas at Karle with fine high halls and polished decorative wall. The Ratha temples of Mahabalipuram built by the Pallavas and Kailash temple at Ellora built by the Rashtrakutas are the other example of rock cut temples. Then there are freestanding temples. In southern India, the Pallavas, Cholas, Pandyas, Hoshalas and later the rulers of the Vijayanagar kingdom were great builders of temples. The Shore temple at Mahabalipuram, Kailashnath temple and Vaikuntha Peerumal temples at Kanchipuram were built by the Pallavas. The Cholas built many temples, most famous being the Brihadeshwara temple at Tanjore. A typical style of temple architecture of South India called the Dravida style was developed by the Cholas. Magnificent temples were built at Bellur, Halebid, where the stone engravings reached even greater heights. In the north and eastern India, magnificent temples were also constructed, and the style followed by them is referred to as the Nagara style. Most of them consisted of the shikaras, that is spiral roofs, and the Garbhagriha, that is the sanctum, and the mandap, that is the pillared hall. Some of the most beautiful temples such as the Lingaraja temple built by the Ganga rulers and the Mukuteshwara temple at Bhubaneswar and the Jagannath temple at Puri are located in Orissa. The Sun temple at Konark was built in the 13th century. It was built by the eastern Ganga ruler Narasimhadeva. 1. It is dedicated to Surya, the sun god, and has been designated as 12-wheeled chariot. Built by Chandela rulers between the 10th and the 11th centuries, is the Bundelkhand region of Madhya Pradesh. The temple complex at Khajuraho is the most magnificent one. The most important among them is the Kandaria Mahadev temple. Mount Abu in Rajasthan is known for the Dilwara temple dedicated to Jain Tirthankars. These were built in pure white marble and adorned with executive sculpture. Somnath temple at Gujarat, Vishwanath temple at Banaras, Govinda temple at Mathura, Kamakhya temple at Guwahati, Shankaracharya temple at Kashmir, and the Kali temple at Kalighat of Kolkata are some other important temples which bear testimony to temple building activity of the Indian subcontinent. These were built under the patronage of Solanki rulers. Thus, this form of architecture proved the diversification and the multidimensional traits of what we call India. Not only they attract for the domestic tourist, but also they have attracted many a tourist from across the globe. Let us discuss about Delhi Sultanate, Islam in India 1206 to 1526. The Delhi Sultanates rules from Delhi between 1206 and 1526 AD. These were of Turkic origin. The name of Delhi Sultanates is used to describe 5 short-lived medieval dynasties which successfully established the Muslim rule in India for the first time in the history of India. The 5 dynasties which form the Delhi Sultanate are listed as follows. The first one is the Mamluk dynasty, that is from 1206 AD to 1219 AD. Then the next is the Khilji dynasty, that is 1290 AD to 1320 AD. Then there is Tughlaq dynasty, that is 1320 AD to 1414 AD. Then there is Sayyid dynasty 1450 AD to 1451 AD. And the last one was the Lodi dynasty, that is from 1451 AD to 1526 AD. Let us discuss the Mamluk dynasty first. The architecture of the dynasty includes the Qutub Minar by Qutb ud-Din Aibak in Mehrauli. The first Islamic mausoleum was built in the 1231. The major rulers of this dynasty is Qutb ud-Din Aibak, Aram Shah, Shams ud-Din Iltutmish, Runk ud-Din Firuz, Raziyat ud-Din Sultana, Muiz ud-Din Bahram, Alauddin Masoud, Nasir ud-Din Muhammad, Ghiyas ud-Din Balban, Muiz ud-Din Kabak. The main buildings of this dynasty includes Quwwat ul-Ulsam Mosque. The second one was Qutub Minar. Then there is the third one is Arhai Din Ka Jhompara. The fourth one is the tomb of Nasir ud-Din Muhammad. The fifth one was the tomb of Shams ud-Din Iltutmish. The second dynasty was the Khilji dynasty. Some of the major rulers of this dynasty includes Jalal ud-Din Firuz Khilji, Alauddin Khilji, Umar Khan Khilji, Qutb ud-Din Mubarak Shah, Khusro Khan. And the main buildings of this dynasty: Alai Darwaza, Hauz Khas, Jamaat Khana Mosque, tomb for Sheikh Nizam ud-Din. Then the third dynasty which ruled was Tughlaq dynasty. Under the Tughlaq period, the architectural style changed. There was a lavish display of ornaments which gave place to puritanical simplicity. This change was partly due to the urgent need of economy and partly to the general revolution of feeling against the excesses of the Khilji regime. The major rulers of this dynasty includes Ghiyath al-Din Tughlaq, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Muhammad ibn Muhammad, Firuz Shah Tughlaq, Ghiyath al-Din Tughlaq II, Abu Bakr Shah, Nasir ud-Din Muhammad Shah III, Sikandar Shah I, Nasir ud-Din Muhammad Shah Tughlaq, Nasir ud-Din Nusrat Shah. The main building which were built by this dynasty includes tomb of Ghiyas ud-Din Begumpuri Mosque, Khirki Masjid, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq's tomb, Adilabad Fort. The fourth dynasty was the Sayyid dynasty. The major rulers of the Sayyid dynasty includes Khizr Khan, Mubarak Shah, Muhammad Shah, Alam Shah. The main buildings which were built by this dynasty includes the city of Khizrabad and Mubarakabad. The second one was the tomb of Sultan Mubarak Shah. Then there was the tomb of Muhammad Shah. Then the fifth dynasty was the Lodi dynasty. The major rulers of the Lodi dynasty includes Bahul Lodi for 1451 to 1489. Then there was Sikandar Lodi 1489 to 1517. Then there was Ibrahim Lodi for 1517 to 1526. The main buildings which were built by this dynasty includes tomb of Sikandar Lodi, Moti Ki Masjid, that is mosque, tomb of Shihab Uddin. Let us now discuss about the colonial Indian architecture 1500 AD to 1947 AD. A new chapter in Indian architecture began with colonialization. There was a huge impact of colonization on the Indian architecture style. It was the British who had a lasting impact on architecture, whereas the Dutch, Portuguese and the French made their presence felt only through their buildings. In its later phase, the colonial architecture culminated into what is called the Indo-Saracenic architecture. On many occasions, heavier styles than Gothic were employed, which can be seen in the Mutini Memorial Church at Kanpur and the last Garrison Church in New Delhi. Gothic style of architecture was mandatory at the time. Its best architecture were Walter Carnival's Calcutta, General Post Office and the Victoria Terminus, now known as the Shivaji Terminus. The Indo-Saracenic hybridization was being increasingly employed at different places like St. John's College, Agra and the Madras High Court in Madras. The main powers that colonized India were the British, French, Dutch and the Portuguese. Let us now discuss about British colonial era 1650 to 1947. The British arrival in 650 marked the end of the Mughal Empire. The British ruled India for over 300 years and their legacy still remains through building and infrastructure. Madras, Calcutta, Bombay, Delhi, Agra, Bankipur in Patna, Karachi, Nagpur, Bhopal and Hyderabad were the major cities colonized by them. St. Andrew's Kirk, Madras is a circular building and is sided by two rectangular sections, one of the entrance porch. The entrance is lined with 12 colonnades and two British lions and motto of East India Company engraved on them. The interior holds 16 columns and the dome is painted blue with decorated with gold stars. The staple of Madras was Fort of St. George, a walled squared building adjacent to the beach. The garden houses were originally used as weekend houses for recreational use by the upper class British. Nonetheless, the garden house became idle, a full-time dwelling, deserting the fort in the 19th century. The Victoria Memorial in Calcutta, built in tribute to Queen Victoria's reign, is the most effective symbol of British Empire. The building consists of one large central part covered with a larger dome. The two chambers share separated by colonnades. Each corner is floored with marble plinth and a small dome. The memorial stands on 26 hectares of garden surrounded by reflective pools. Once the headquarters of the Great Indian Peninsular Railway, the Victoria Terminus was a major masterpiece of this phase. It was increasingly hybrid in style. The classical style furthered the innovations in architecture. The next one is the French from 1673 to 1954. Pondicherry was built on the French grid pattern and features neat sectors and perpendicular streets. The town was divided into two sectors, French Quarter, Ville Blanche, and the Indian Quarter, that is Ville Noire. The villas are styled with the long compounds and sterily walls, large French doors and grilles, lined houses with verandas. Infrastructure such as banks, police station and Pondicherry International Port still hold the French presence. Then the next one is the Dutch from 1605 to 1825. The Dutch entered India in the early 17th century with only interest of trade. They colonized Surat, Bahurat, Bandrula, Ahmedabad, Malabar Coast, Kochi and Sandras during their 200 years in India. Surat, there was a Dutch factory established in 1630 in Surat. Then Bahurat, the trading post of the Dutch East India Company, had a Dutch cemetery in Bahurat. Then there is Bandrula. There was a warehouse built in 3000 guilders by Linda Jensujons and a castle for the protection of the Dutch in Bandrula. The next is the Ahmedabad. There is a Dutch cemetery that lies on the banks of the Kankaria Lake. It is a mix of Indian and European styled graves like graves with domed tombs, pyramids, vault and plain gravestones. The next in the Malabar Coast, Kochi, the Dutch palace, also known as the Metenchery Palace, which was originally built by the Portuguese, but it fell into the hands of the Dutch when the Portuguese lost control of Kochi and redesigned it in their style. Then the next in Sadras, located in 70 kilometers from the rock-cut temples of Mamalapurams, is another Dutch settlement. The next is the Portuguese, 1498 to 1961. The Portuguese arrived in 1498 in India. They were the more driven by a Catholic missionary zeal than gaining powers in India, although they arrived as merchants. Hence, they gained a foothold in Goa and ruled it for 400 years. The Basilica of Born Jesus, Old Goa, is one of the biggest examples of Portuguese architecture in India. The Portuguese Catholic houses. The Catholic houses built by the Portuguese were very unique in their own ways. They faced the street with unique large ornamental windows opening into verandas. The houses were painted with bold colors, constructing distinct identity which allowed the sailors to recognize their houses from sea. The covered porches and verandas were designed for socializing, contrary to the Hindu-styled housing. Let us now discuss about modern architecture. Urban housing is aimed to serve the working class and it also balances space constructions in India. Growing awareness of ecology has influenced architecture in India during modern times. As India became a modern nation state, the architecture has also turned modern. Some of the very important contributions of architecture to the modern India are Chandigarh. The famous French architect Le Corbusier planned Chandigarh, the dream city of India's first Prime Minister Shri Jawaharlal Nehru. It is located at the foothills of Shivaliks and is known as one of the best urban planning and modern architecture cities in the 20th century in India. Chandigarh becomes symbolic of the newly independent Indian. The next is the High Court Chandigarh. The High Court building is L-shaped in plan with a long facade facing the Capital Plaza. The building has a rectilinear frame with 8 number of courtrooms located on the main facade, separated from the larger Chief Justice Court by a monumental pillared entrance extending to the full height of the entrance. The small courts are 8 into 8 into 12 meters. The dimensions of the overall design were governed by the modular combined with triangular regulating lines. The design of the High Court is an embodiment of the climate responsive architecture as conceived by Corbusier for the new city. The next is the 10-story building in 48 hours. A 10-story building was assembled by a workforce of around 300 engineers and workers in Punjab's Mohali district in just 48 hours. It was constructed using prefabricated steel structure technology. Viraste Khalsa. The Viraste Khalsa is one of the finest examples of modern architecture. The complex has 2 functionally integrated sets of buildings. There is a 165-meter bridge from the western complex which provides pedestrian access to the eastern complex. The eastern complex houses the Viraste Khalsa Museum that comprises permanent exhibit galleries on 500 years of Sikh heritage along with museum facilities. Then there is the Lotus Temple, the Baha'i house of worship in Delhi, India, popularly known as the Lotus Temple due to its flower-like shape, is a prominent attraction in Delhi. Each component of the temple is repeated 9 times. Dear students, Let us now summarize what we have discussed in this module. After reading the module, the students might have been able to know about development of different architectural styles under various eras and civilizations, namely Indus Valley Civilization, early historic period, Delhi Sultanate, colonial period and modern period. With these words, I sum up this module. Thank you.